there, it's Polly here with Mr. Snoots. In the glorious outdoors, because we can. So, I had recorded a tea talk about fantacists versus fantasy. Kind of triggered off by some of the people that I have encountered recently who were using role-playing games particularly as a way of kind of exploring out some of the bad parts of their personalities. Re-recording all of this sort of thing now because today's been both a weird and a typical day in trans life. So there were 2 more death threats on this channel and the inevitable people. I know there are actual Nazis watching the channel. This is me and a stuffed elephant just telling you, you're cowards. There is no realm of human endeavour in which I am not your superior. But anyway, Nazis, white supremacist wannabes, also fantasists, so I thought I would broaden this out a little. So look, you find those people who have rich fantasies, and in games they want to play these out. Sometimes that can be a riot and can be very entertaining. But there's also those people who are actual fantasists who honestly seem to believe that they have mighty destinies, or that Dunning-Kruger effect has not really managed to mesh with their gears. So, there are those who do and those who fantasize about things. The damage comes when people fantasize about things under the dead certainty that they can do. So look, I'll use myself as hopefully a positive example. I have spent decades studying Japanese martial arts and the Japanese swords, and to a bystander you would describe me as a very, very competent swordsman. I would describe myself as a middling swordsman, or in my case, swordswoman, but I would tell you straight up that I have trained with geniuses, and I can show you people who I think are incredibly talented at this. And that is the clue that I actually know what I'm talking about, because I can identify my own failings and my own regions for improvement. And herein lies the problem with the fantasists, because they don't have that. And one of the standard fantasies that you'll get is that someone would, had not cruel fate somehow stopped them, they would be a mighty leader. A leader of men, beloved, loved by a dedicated cast of warriors who were blah, 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 blah. You'll find this in a lot of kind of sad-ass role-playing gamers. You'll find this sometimes, actually, I have found it as a thread in role-playing gamers who have been veterans but who have been deployed into areas where they felt their mighty military amazingness was not fully appreciated. So, the toxic gamer character I told you about? Oh yeah, he was one of those. Mighty warrior, mighty leader, military obsessed. In role-playing games, his character has to be the best at everything, can never be second best, has to be out there, has to win, has to be brutally achieving more than anyone else, and has to be loved for it. What were they in Vietnam? They were a mail clerk. Oh, they were a Vietnam vet, right? They were a mail clerk for an engineering company. So, and alright, I can see there's psychological damage there, and this person unfortunately is using games as a way of working their way through them, much to the detriment of the rest of us. But you will find that, now, there's a string of science fiction fans that you'll find, and they make their way into gaming. They're usually dressed in military cosplay. And these are the American gun nuts that you'll see out there too. They'll always be wearing camouflage clothing, camouflage hats, and they'll buy crap that has the word tactical in it. For some reason this guy's wearing a tactical vest. You know, that vest that's never used by actual soldiers anywhere. because we don't do that. We have bloody webbing, or we have, these days, I believe they have armour that has, you know, stowage slots on it. And here it is, because the thing that allows these fantasies to stay alive, and they're damaging fantasies, those American gun nuts, they're out there they're fantasizing about killing people, and many of them will act upon it. So we're talking a dangerous class of people. The cure is the rude awakening. So, in my younger days I knew I wanted to be an author, and I had been told you can write what you know. That actually turns out to be more nuanced. You can actually write what you can most vividly conceive. But to conceive something properly, you have to have experienced it. So when I wrote books about flying aces, I learned to fly a plane. I have done books that have combats between tanks. It's because I was a tank driver. I joined the Australian Army Reserve, which is our part-time army, straight out of high school, because one thing, I was a war gamer and wanted to put my money where my mouth is, but the other thing is I knew that I would need to write military fiction. And the way to do that was to know how these people talked, how these people moved, how they interacted, what that life is like, what it smells like, what the food tastes like, what it's like to be there in the spot. And that would allow me to write it. So I did my tiny little hitch, and I got what I wanted from it. I lived the life. Anyone that's actually served will tell you that it's just hard drudgery. It's not exciting at all. Being a soldier is just cleaning your damn equipment, lugging heavy stuff long distances, long walks in rain, hail and snow. It's being on a machine gun picket while sleet is just bucketing down on top of you, and looking at your watch and realising that you're going to be out here for another 3 hours before the relief comes. It's coming across another vehicle and finding you've just got to stop and help these guys because they've got a slipped track, and so you're just hauling heavy bits of metal for 2 hours, and it's thankless. It's just drudgery. Anyone that's actually been deployed into combat areas, that drudgery is multiplied by, a factor of 50, because there's real work to do, equipment's really busting, and an added layer of sheer terror because someone's actually trying to kill you. So you will find that amongst that fantasist community, what you're not getting are people who've actually served, people who've actually done things, because the actual experience of that tends to erase the fantasy. It can't stand up in the light of just cold, the Australian term, hard yakka. Just the drudging hard work that has to be done. Erases that away. What's the cure for fantasists? Well, the cure for fantasists, strangely enough, is not tolerance. People like the toxic gamer and so on that I tolerated for many years, hoping that we could somehow reach the better person inside, that's shown to be an error. In my older age, I realised that what we did was we kind of encouraged someone to have a safe space in which that behaviour was actually allowed to flourish. They didn't learn to do better, they just learned they could get away with it. Isn't that so, Snoots? Yes. So your only real hope, if you have these people in your group, is to somehow subject them to that hard work. Now, if they're younger, and I mean like 40 or less, it's time to challenge them. Do something. Get out there. Good Lord. That is the one truck in this entire half of Perth, I swear. Anyway, you need to challenge them to do the hard work. If they're young enough, yeah, they can join the Army Reserve, or what have you got in the USA? National Guard? Do it. But there are also emergency organisations in areas, volunteer emergency organisations. Challenge them. Why aren't they in these? This person's a patriot. Hern of the hern, my beloved country. Good, what have you done? Not online. What have you done? Get out there. Join these emergency organisations, particularly the ones that do hard training. Don't let them get away with answering the mail or, picking up the phones for these people. They've got to be the ones hauling the heavy equipment. schlepping pallets of bottled water out to people in the field. The thankless, dusty, heavy work. That's actually the cure. Literally heavy grind. And it takes the polish off, and then you begin to respect the people who actually do this sort of thing for what they actually do, and not what you fantasize what they do about. The ultra patriots, again, that's kind of in many ways the cure for it, because again, they have a fantasy about, there's this thing the rest of the world doesn't have, American exceptionalism. It's like, yes, it's an exceptionally vicious, unpleasant country, is what it is. But again, if you can get them out of the bubble where they can just sit there banging their chests about what a patriot they are, then what do? There's organisations out there that need you. They need your physical help. Do it. Don't let them run out there to the gun range to fire their guns. That just fuels the fantasy. Get them out there just schlepping the food for the firefighters. Helping your volunteer fire organisations, your volunteer emergency organisations. That's the ones to get them into. So the political end of this. So I had 2 death threats today, and this is typical. And when I followed them through, one of them's on YouTube here, Nazi. His feed is full of him singing, literally, singing Confederate songs like the Bonnie Blue flag, but they've rewritten them so it's all about the swastika flag and how their white race is going to conquer. Now again, these sort of fantasists flourish because there is a support mechanism that lets them fantasize. I know the cure I'd like to give them. These people are cowards. So the first thing is you'll notice, as a rule, these people, again, are not people who've honestly served anywhere. They certainly do not serve their fellow man. They never serve their country. Do you know any? Have you encountered any? The challenge is always, what are you doing? Not what militia group do they pose around in with guns trying to feel that they're tough, because that's not being a soldier. I was an assault infantryman. Do you know how much time I spent blazing away with a rifle? Virtually none. What I did spend a lot of time doing was servicing vehicles or walking 50 kilometres in the rain to get to where we were supposed to be deployed. That's where the time goes, and that's where the effort goes. So again, these guys have to be broken out of their white supremacy bubbles by hard grind, is all I can think of. They're never going to do it because that challenge of hard work is something they're never going to actually do. Do you want to really help your community? Then get out into it. Fantasies about mysterious races conspiring to destroy things, they can't stand up against cold, hard reality. Wandering the streets, talking to people, and having to work, and just work, and see what's actually going on. And this is why I say these people are cowards, because they'll never just do the honest, hard work. They're cowards because they just won't put any of themselves behind their principles, except to primp and pose, and to fantasize about standing there with their guns blazing in the middle of whatever. And it's like, hard work destroys fantasists. Doesn't destroy fantasies. I know so many people who are hard workers and great, amazing, honest people, and we have the most amazing games together. That's the difference. Fantasy is a piece of joy that we indulge in to make life richer and have a rich inner creative life. A fantasist is someone who contributes deliberately to a self-delusion of invincibility. A self-delusion of invincibility cannot stand up against the long-term encounter with reality, and that's why they avoid it. Every single gamer that I've rolled dice with and known is more honest and more courageous than those people who sent me death threats today, because those gamers have, just by indulging in games and entertaining their friends, have engaged with the community expecting nothing back. they put themselves in to entertain others, which is more than these people will ever do. So, here's to the people who love fantasy, and if you encounter a fantasist, see if you can push them into actually doing something. Anything honest and hard. I think you'll find they'll run from it pretty quickly. Hey, but at least they showed their true colours. Isn't that true, Mr. Snoots? It is. He's an honest beast. Anyway, that is the modified tea talk about fantasy and fantasists. It is weird getting death threats on a channel about games. It's also quite funny, because the other thing about harsh reality is that sometimes it can break every bone in your body. And picking fights with people who you might eventually encounter face to face. Yeah, what's that old term? And we'll try using an American accent. Son, your mouth's writing checks, your body might have to cash. Anyway, we shall see you again. It is a glorious spring afternoon, and you can't really see it, but there are thousands of little mayflies dancing around over here. I'm going to go see where they're coming from, because ponds are great. Yay! Bye!